Hello, everyone, and happy to 2019. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday break and was able to spend some time with family. Um, this week, I wanted to get back on topic and talking about how to kind of improve the relationship with your children and get them involved in different things. So, today I want to talk about a little bit about problem solving. How do you solve problems with your child? And one of the first things to think about is when there is an issue, a lot of times people think immediately about punishing their child. I want you to think a little bit differently, and I want you to think more about consequences. And you may ask, what is the difference between a punishment and a consequence? There are differences. So when we talk about punishment, you talk about deliberately depriving your child of something, inflicting pain, whereas a consequence is a natural result of one's behavior. Um, Consequences can be positive and they can also be negative. You go to work, you do well, you get promotions, get more money, whatever it may be. So it can be positive and it's not always negative. Um, so I'm not saying that your child should not receive consequences at all, because consequences are very important. Consequences also shape behavior. Punishment, on the other hand, does not shape behavior. What it does is when punishment is constant, it can actually create a distraction, and kids actually become preoccupied and think more about revenge than they do about changing their behavior. So when you're working with your child, I think your ultimate goal as a parent is to change their behavior and not so much get your child to start thinking about revenge all the time. So when there is a problem, you do want to think about a couple things. One, you want to point out ways that they can be helpful. Um, Instead of always nagging, pointing out ways that they can be helpful. Um, it's okay to express strong disapproval. You don't want to attack your child, but it is okay to be like, hey, I don't like what's going on. It's okay to be firm. It's okay to be angry. Believe me, we need to show that to kids. We need to show they model up from us. It's okay to be angry. We don't have to lose control. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be mad, and helping them understand those different emotions and how to handle them without going to extremes. You'll want to state your expectations. Um, and you also want to show a child how to make amends. Many times they know that they did something wrong and they want to change it, they want to fix it, but they don't necessarily know how to. So one of the things that you do want to do is you want to teach your child, how do you make amends? And sometimes it's by an apology note, sometimes it might be by a thank you note, sometimes it's about fixing what was broken. Restorative justice is something that we use a lot of times in middle school. Um, Offering choices to your child, because they're still kids. They don't know everything, they don't know it all. If you offer your child choices, you have to allow them to pick and follow through the one they want to. So sometimes it may be, you know, I want you to do your homework or you're going to get an F on the paper. And the child's like, I'm going to get an F on the paper. As a parent, that is really, really hard, because you're like, no, I want you to do well and I want you to get good grades and I want you to go on in life. If that is a choice you're going to give your child, you have to allow them to follow through with that. Sometimes they have to fail in order to make changes. And as a parent, it is really hard to watch a child fail. So you have to learn how to support your child and not so much save your child. So how do you support your child through failure? And that is going to happen. They're going to make mistakes, and that's how they learn. Again, it's part of the consequences of behavior. If we constantly save our children all the time and make things right, they'll never learn how to do it themselves, and they will always expect somebody to come in and save them, which is not very healthy. It's not a good thing to have at all. So with those choices, just be careful that when you give those, you have to let the child follow through whatever it is and deal with those natural consequences afterwards. And then again, take action. Let them do those choices. Um, all children need to experience consequences, as I was saying. Um, if your child is rude to you in a store or in a public place, don't take them out next time. Say, why do you think I'm not taking you out this time? Think about what happened last time. I did not appreciate being spoken to like that in public. It also disturbed other people. If they're not like if you let them use your phone or you let them use tools and they're not taking care of those tools, I would lock up the tools. You can lock up your tools. You can lock up your belongings. When the child's like, what is going on? You've locked things up. Draw the attention back and say, remember what happened. So right now I need to know where my things are at all times, and you just freely can't use my belongings. But how are we going to develop that sense of trust again? And this is where problem solving comes in. It might be kids not using social media all the time. It might be getting home on time. Gaming is a big one, problem solving. So when we're kind of discussing what's going on and you're creating a plan around behaviors that are constant, your child's constantly coming home late. Yes, there's natural consequences for that. But at the same time, you as a parent might be worried, especially if it gets dark early. You might not be knowing where they are. The kid may not realize, your child may not realize that what's going on. When it comes to social media, we talked about that earlier, that you are the parent and paying for that. So when you're coming up with these problems that are going on and you're talking about developing consequences and what those are going to be, the first thing you want to do is talk about your child's feelings and needs. And you're going to want to take a little bit of time with this because you really want to understand how the child is feeling in a particular situation. So, they come to you and they want Facebook or Snapchat on their phone, or they want a phone to begin with, or they want to be gaming with their friends on Fortnite or whatever it is that they're on. You really want to understand what your child is feeling, and really sit down and listen to them and say, it's really hard to get up and leave your friends when you're having fun with them, or it's really hard to feel like the only person in the world that doesn't have Snapchat. Then talk about your feelings, but this you don't want to take as much time on. You want to be short and you want to be clear. When you're not home on time, I begin to worry. When I am worried about you being on Snapchat because whatever your reasons may be. You want to be short, you want to be clear, because if you start talking too much, and they're not going to listen to you and they're not going to hear. Then you want to brainstorm solutions together. And remember earlier we talked about writing things down and how it makes things important. This is an important step here. When you brainstorm, you want to write things down, and you want to write down everything that is said. No evaluating, no, that's a dumb idea, nothing like that. Just write down the ideas. So your child is going to come up with ideas, and maybe let them come up with the first few. You're going to come up with ideas, and you're going to write them down. After you write down all the lists, and sometimes it may be, if it's a big problem, it may be, listen, this was a really big problem. I got a call from school today. This is what the teacher said. We need to come up with some solutions together as a family, so we're going to discuss it at dinner time. I need some time to think. You need some time to think. So it doesn't mean it needs to be done right away. If it's a larger problem that you need to discuss as a family, it's okay to let the child know, hey, guess what? We are going to discuss this, and we're going to brainstorm some solutions together at this time. And you want to follow through with that. So as you're writing down all those ideas, you start to review them afterwards. And it's okay to talk about the ones you don't like. Because believe me, your child is going to come up with some ideas that you don't like. And at the same time, you're going to come up with some ideas that the child does not like. So instead of saying, no, that's a dumb idea, or no, we're not going to do that, talk about, this is not something that I'm comfortable with, or this would be something that I could do. So try to keep things in the affirmative, because again, you're coming up with a solution to a problem that you have. And then you want to decide on an action plan. And this again is where you want to write things down. So what steps are going to be taken, who is going to be responsible for the step, what it's going to kind of look like, and then when will it be done. So again, you get a call from the school. This is what the teacher said. What is your side of the story? The two probably won't match, but do you really want to be getting calls from the teacher all the time? No. How are we going to problem solve? Because ultimately, whatever's happening, your work's not getting done. And maybe I want to be moved from the teacher. Maybe we have to have a teacher conference, whatever it may be, coming together to do that. Some kids can come up with a problem. You know what? I can't do homework at home. So they come to school early or stay after school for homework club, or they work out some other alternatives. Um, Same thing with getting home on time. Kids don't like to wear watches if they're not watching their phone. But sometimes with different clock towers in our city, kids will hear those, and then that gives them a signal that they're going home. Same thing with social media. What is that going to look like? Or gaming. You're only going to do this in this room, and microphones are turned off unless we know who the person is at the other end. So, when will it be done by? Um, so, this is really, your child may say something like, well, you never let me do this, and you're never going to let me do it. That's when you stop and say, we're not going to focus on the past. Right now, we're focusing on the future. And then the last thing, your child is really upset with you. Something big happened. They're really mad. They're not coming to the table to sit down with you about this. It's okay to write a letter to your child. Again, that writing piece is so important. Texting, I understand X, Y, and Z. This is a problem. We need to come up with some solutions together. Because going back and forth all the time, and just always dealing with the consequences of punishment isn't going to help. So thinking about consequences that are consistent with what's going on. So that's kind of the difference between punishment and consequences, and how you can come up with plans to solve some of the problems that you have with your preteen child. So thank you very much for tuning in and listening. I hope you guys have a great week. Bye.